Are you Googling someone's behavior to try and work out why they are treating you a certain way? Are you confused with your reality, not sure like what's real, what's been gaslit? Do you feel stuck in a relationship with somebody because for one moment they seem perfect and everything you need, but the next they're completely cold and distant, really hot and cold? You might be in a relationship with a narcissist. If you suspect that this is your reality, I want you to stick around because I'm going to tell you how to actually identify a narcissist and also how to actually heal from one too. Now let's get comfy because I'm about to share with you some really important information. Specifically, the key traits of narcissism, red flags that they display, how to protect yourself from them, some personal first-hand experience, and the steps to heal from narcissistic abuse so that you don't ever have to go through hell on earth with one ever again. I promise you that you will leave this video being significantly more educated on what the hell NPD is. If you want to have fun with it, take a shot for every time I'm about to say narcissist, narcissism, or NPD.
I've got a script here because I have a tendency to get a little bit off topic. So if you see me glancing down at my phone, just know I'm making sure that I stay on track so that I can give you a video jam-packed of the right information in the right order. I'll have a video chapter section here so you'll be able to skip through to whatever part of the video you feel is necessary for you. This is a quick disclaimer that I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm purely sharing the information that I have learned and gathered over the last 10 months of excessive research from credible sources on this topic. And quite frankly, I've also learned a lot through life experience herself. I wanted to start off by saying this because a lot of the time when survivors are talking about NPD and narcissists, a lot of people, like the backlash that you receive is this famous line, "Where is your degree?" So my response to this every time, and I will stand by it, is that you do not need a degree to learn everything you can about the disorder to work out whether somebody in your life has NPD, and that the abuse you are suffering is at the hands of a narcissist. By using the correct sources of information and listening to people that actually do have the correct credentials, you can absolutely work this out. While I do not have the proper credentials to diagnose somebody with NPD, I have definitely experienced the abuse at the hands of one, and my story and my experience is just as real. I have had to learn what the hell I had been going through, and ultimately I had to work out what I was needing to heal from. It's very hard to work out, why am I feeling this way? What am I going through when you actually don't know what it is you're going through, if that makes sense. Now, the reason I'm even making this video is because a lot of the time, I'm going to say most of the time, the victims of people at the hands of a narcissist don't actually know that they are at the hands of a narcissist, just like I didn't. And a lot of other people don't realize until they're in too deep, like until it's too late, until they've given up everything, until they're too far in the relationship, and until they're like, how the hell did I get here? If I can make this video to help you identify what a narcissist is, hopefully moving forward with all of your other relationships in your life, you're going to be able to work out whether they are and get out before it's too late. But that's why education is so important on this disorder. For me personally, it started when I started Googling behavior. I was like, blah, 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 is this normal? And the chances are, if you're having to Google someone's behavior to try and work out why they're treating you a certain way, it is absolutely not normal. You shouldn't be doing that. But when I was doing it, that's actually when I came across a video on YouTube by Dr. Romani, and she has a whole bunch of videos on there about narcissism, and down the rabbit hole I went. I binged all of her videos in private. Obviously, I had to keep it a secret what I was learning, but I binged all of her videos in private, and that's when I came to learn what exactly a narcissist is. And let me tell you, when I actually learned about what they are and what they do to people, I felt sick. My legs felt like jelly. My heart was like pulsing so hard. Like I cannot even articulate exactly how I felt. It was like all of a sudden I lost all of my hearing. All I could hear was my heart in my head. I felt sick. I felt nauseous. I wanted to throw up. I thought, this cannot be happening. This cannot be my reality. There is absolutely no way. At first, it was a lot of denial. And then the more I learned, the more symptoms that I was educating myself on, it very quickly became evident that this indeed was my life. And as you can imagine, that completely changes your worldview. It changes how you view your relationship, your partner, or whoever the person with NPD in your life is, because ultimately your world has been flipped upside down. You've been rocked. Now you might be wondering, why would you feel so, like, why is that so scary? Isn't it just a disorder? Like, what makes it so terrifying is the fact that the person you think they are basically does not exist. Because what narcissists do, they mirror behavior and they wear masks. They have a mask on around every single person in their life. They are able to say that they are like a chameleon, which basically means they can shapeshift to whatever personality they need to wear to have that person like them or perceive them a certain way. So as you can imagine, when you realize that someone has NPD, you actually do not know them. They are only showing you a side of them that they want you to believe how they are, which is not true. What else is so scary about realizing someone you're in a relationship with or someone that you live with has NPD is the fact that now that you know that they're a narcissist, you cannot let them know that you know, because that's when it gets really dangerous. So from that moment, you're going through a range of things completely on your own. You're having to work out, well, first of all, you're having to accept what they are. And then you're going to have to work out how to actually plan to leave safely and quietly. And that is scary. So through my experience, I learned everything that I could about NPD. And now I just feel this massive urge to share with other women and men, primarily other women, because I feel like that's who I can relate to the most, on what exactly NPD is, how to heal from it, and how to avoid them, and how to identify them. I'm sharing so that other men and women do not feel as alone as I once did when I was going through the thick of it. It is a scary thing to go through, and I'm here to let you know you're not alone. What you are experiencing is real, and I'm here to help. You've probably heard the word narcissist get thrown left, right, and center, basically. And I feel like this term has been really washed down to actually let people know what it even means. A narcissist, to me, I always thought, until I was 27, I'm 27 now, but I believed that the word narcissist was just another insult. I thought it was just like calling someone a bitch, calling someone a prick, until I actually learned what they are. And now when I see videos online or hear people talking, oh, they're a narcissist, I'm like, are they? Are they really? Because I can promise you, just because someone said, like, did a certain thing or cheated on you or calls you a certain name, but they don't actually have any of the other traits of a narcissist, and you're not experiencing the level of abuse and coercive control and manipulation that a narcissist does, they're probably not a narcissist. And it goes way more than just being self-centered and having an inflated ego. Like, that is just the tip of the iceberg about what a narcissist actually is. Now, NPD stands for Narcissistic Personality Disorder. That's not to be confused with people who just have narcissistic traits, though. We all have narcissistic traits. That's just how humans are. But narcissistic personality disorder is exactly what the word says. Personality disorder. So I'm actually going to read you verbatim from the DSM-5, okay? This is a credible source. DSM is short for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, which you'll be pleased to know is actually how in Australia now, that is the primary source of diagnosing mental disorders. I'm going to tell you exactly what it reads, The essential feature of narcissistic personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, need for admiration, a lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. Now pay attention. Put a finger down if they have a grandiose sense of self-importance. Example, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. Are preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Believe that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. Require excessive admiration. Have a sense of entitlement. Example, unreasonable expectations, favorable treatment, or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. Are interpersonally exploitive. Example, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own needs. Lack empathy. Is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. Are often envious of others or believe that others are envious of him or her. Show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. How many fingers do you have left? That is literally how they diagnose. However, NPD is more than just a mental condition of how important they think they are. This is what I'm going to break down for you today. It's important to note that there are different types of narcissists as well. They're categorized by 5 main types according to psychcentral.com, which I will link all of the sources of information in my descriptor so that you can have a look for yourself, because there'll be a lot more information. But even these 5 types fall under either the overt narcissists, who seem to be more arrogant, and then covert narcissists, which they appear to be a little bit more humble. However, they're equally just as self-centered. Starting with the overt narcissist. Overt narcissism is the one that is the most popular or well-known, I'm going to say. And this is the one where it has the traits of arrogance. They're competitive. They lack empathy. They're constantly needing to be praised and admired by others. Now that's an overt narcissist. The people that have the overt narcissism tend to overestimate their abilities, their achievements, and even their emotional intelligence. The next one is a covert narcissist. This type is also known as a more vulnerable narcissist, and these ones go a little bit more unnoticed because they tend to play more of the victim role. People believe that narcissists are loud and extroverted and needing all this attention, and they're very open about it, which is why the covert narcissist is sometimes harder to spot because they don't show it as openly. These are the types that come across with low confidence, victim mentality, defensiveness, avoidance, and a tendency to play the victim, even in situations that they created. The third type is the antagonistic narcissist. So according to some research, which again, I will have linked in the description below, so you can read the actual research, antagonistic narcissism is a subtype of an overt narcissist. So these traits include stuff like taking advantage of others. They have a tendency to compete with others, disagree with others, and are a little bit more argumentative. And these types are the types that are less likely to be forgiving with others, and also have a lot lower sense of trust. The fourth one is the communal narcissist. Now, this one's a little bit tricky, and I don't see a lot of people talking about this one. And personally, I don't have firsthand experience with this type, but a communal narcissist is typically seen as the opposite of the antagonistic narcissist. So these types, you'll notice, are a bit more morally outraged. They describe themselves as empathetic and generous, and they tend to react really strongly when they feel like things are unfair. This one can be confusing because hearing that you go, what's wrong with that? They sound like they care. The key difference with a communal narcissist is that social power and self-importance are still playing major roles. Basically, unlike people that have genuine, good, and charitable intentions, a communal narcissist is only behaving well and helping others for the sake of receiving praise or just being perceived as morally superior. Number 5 is the malignant narcissist. Now, this one terrifies me. While narcissism can exist on different levels of severity, a malignant narcissist is more severe. And this type is more connected to the overt narcissism than the covert. So they may have common traits with the other type of narcissist. However, the malignant narcissist has more like vindictiveness, sadism, just genuinely getting enjoyment from other people's pain. They tend to have a lot more aggression, and can be very argumentative when dealing with other people, and they have a little bit less inhibitions. They tend to also be a little bit more paranoid as well, and like have a heightened sense of fear and like people are out to get them. And the reason why this type is considered more dangerous is because it runs very close to antisocial personality disorder. So if you're wondering, okay, well, now that we know the types, like how can we treat them? How can we help them? And the short answer is you can't. You cannot treat narcissism. The reason why it's so challenging is because people with NPD don't actually believe that they have a problem, and they don't feel the need to actually, 1, go and get diagnosed, and 2, they actually don't realize that their behavior is really destructive and actually hurts other people. And even if they do, they don't care. Which is why people that don't have NPD really need to be educated on these types of people so that we can protect ourselves and know how to navigate our way around them, basically. Okay, now that you've got an understanding of the types that there are, I'm going to tell you the key traits of the type of behavior that they display so you actually know what to look out for. Because no one's going to come up to you and be like, hey, I'm a narcissist. Hey, I'm malignant. Hey, I'm going to abuse you. That's not how it happens. So I'm going to tell you the things to actually pay attention to, especially when you're starting to date somebody. And even if you're already in a relationship with them, because they do really well at hiding who they really are. These are the things to look out for. And even these are the things you should look out for if your friends are starting to date somebody new. If your cousins, aunties, mothers, like anyone that is in your life and they're telling you things about people, also have your ears and eyes peeled just for those types of behavior, because you're going to be able to spot them very easily when you know what to look for. The first one is probably the most classic, and that is just the grandiosity, that they are the best of the best. They are the creme de la creme. They are the highest achievers in everything that they do. Or like an example of this could be they were single-handedly the ones that saved a company from going bankrupt. Or, they say that they're the top of their field in their industry, even when there's no evidence to support this. That is grandiosity. That can show up in a couple of different ways, like in the workplace, in a relationship. They might say like, oh, I'm the best of the best. Like it's just this inflated sense of like, I am superior than everybody around me. I know what's best. I can achieve anything. Like if I wanted to do anything, I would be the best of it. Even if let's say they want to be let's say they go, oh, I can be better than the best tennis players in the world. And they've never picked up a racket before. Grandiosity. The second one that is kind of the most common as well is a lack of empathy. Now, lack of empathy sounds like something that you would assume is really easy to spot, but that's actually not true because, again, narcissists are good at mirroring you and masking. So they know what empathy should look like. They know what it should sound like. They know the body language that they're supposed to display when they're supposed to be feeling empathy. However, they don't actually know what empathy feels like. They do not have that capability to feel that emotion the way that a neurotypical person does. But again, because they have been spending their entire life being this way, they've learned very quickly on how to appear like they do. But they do get tired of masking. So the longer you're around somebody, eventually things start to fall between the cracks and you start to realize this person actually does not have empathy for either yourself in a relationship with them or even others. You may notice like let's say like a world disaster or something happens, they tend to have no empathy for the people like that are suffering, even just in general world problems. Comments that can display lack of empathy is a lot of like dismissing your needs as well, like emotional needs, emotional validation or anything like that. If you were to go to them, they tend to shut you down by saying things like, oh, just get over it, it's in the past, or oh, everyone has issues, just move on. If they are constantly dismissive and actually don't pay attention to how you're feeling or try and be there for you, they don't have empathy. They are also completely unable to understand why maybe something that they have done has hurt you. They don't believe that you should be upset because it wasn't my intention, they like to say. It doesn't matter if it's your intention or not. It matters that you hurt me. And you should be, a normal person would be genuinely sorry and express that they're sorry. A narcissist won't do this. They will shift the blame and make you feel like, well, there's nothing to be sorry about, and they don't feel sorry. I was listening to a video by Dr. Romani about like how they also like how the lack of empathy can like come across to just for like people to have an idea of what it's like. I can't remember verbatim the analogy, but she said something along the lines of how a narcissist sees people and their emotions is the same way like a person like you or me see a coffee machine. Let me explain. If you go up to the coffee in the morning, you make yourself a coffee, you're like, perfect, this is amazing, this is exactly what I need from you, a coffee. If then we were to move away and continue with our day and sit down and continue what we were doing, and the coffee machine came up to us and said, hey, I need this from you, I need that from you, blah, 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 we'd be like, what are you doing? Get out of my way. You're a coffee machine. That is exactly how a narcissist views people, as an object. That you are there just to fill their needs and their needs only, and they should not have to put in time, effort, attention, love, care, anything into you. For me, this personally clicked in when I began to notice that anytime I was upset, I was never consoled, I never got a hug, I never got a kiss on the forehead, I never got consoled basically, ever. Even if they hurt me, I never got an apology, ever. I never got an apology. And if you have to explain to a fully grown adult why they should be sorry, that's a red flag. And it could be anything. It could have been anything that I was upset with, whether it was upset from, whether it ranged from the fact that they had upset me from something that they had said or done to something as large as the fact that my grandfather had passed away. I never got consoled. I was always completely on my own. I was always dismissed of, oh, it's been this, get over it. Oh, you're so annoying. Lack of empathy. When you are standing there crying your eyes out and you're blue in the face, and the person that is your partner or your mother or your father or whoever the narcissist is in your life, if you're able to express that emotion and they just are there so cold and distant and with these black eyes and just looking at you like you're just this pest, and they just think, why are you acting this way? And they're not able to even just do the basic human decency of giving you a hug or saying it's going to be okay. They're probably a narcissist. Any normal person does not react that way when somebody is in need of love and support and care. A narcissist will often actually enjoy that you are being upset. And a lot of the times they will happily roll over and go to sleep and sleep like a baby that night, knowing that you're upset. And they will think, oh, perfect. Lack of empathy. Yes, it was as awful and lonely as it sounds. Number 3 is need for admiration. A need for admiration is a huge thing for a narcissist. They always need to be validated and admired by whoever is around them. Strangers, people they know, everyone. They insist that they are superior to others. So this will show in ways like They refuse to wait in a line. They will only get VVIP stuff. They will order like the most expensive thing at a restaurant, the most expensive drink, and order a booth at the club, and then expect to be treated like a king or a queen. They will often talk a lot about themselves, list off their great traits, and they will over-exaggerate how generous they are, how caring they are. They will want to appear like they are such a good person. And if you pay close enough attention, you'll realize how often they're actually fishing for compliments. But this is something you need to still be wary of, because in the beginning of a relationship, I say that like that because it's not a relationship. They're a predator and they're preying on you. So it's very easy to not really realize this, because in the beginning, they actually talk a lot about you. They actually compliment you a lot. They actually admire you a lot. Like, it's very focused on you, which is also why you get sucked in really easily, because you feel like, wow, this person is like seeing me, like really seeing me, and they're complimenting me and they're doing all this sort of stuff. That changes, that script will change. They will very quickly turn around, especially when they know you're locked in. That's when you begin to realize how much they actually only talk about themselves. And anytime you bring up a conversation, they will circle back into talking about themselves and that need for admiration. Number 4 is the manipulative behavior. Now, on my TikTok, I have often said, like, they are master manipulators. Totally. They can manipulate, they can manipulate like you have never seen before. Like, they will plot and plan what the outcome of something that they want, and you best believe 9 times out of 10, they're going to get it. A narcissist is playing chess with you, and you don't even know that you're playing a game with them. That's how good they are at manipulating you. I like to describe them as psychological serial killers, because the way that they manipulate, and it's so carefully and it's crafted in such a way that you have absolutely no idea that you are being manipulated. Even the most intelligent and experienced people are still capable of being manipulated by a narcissist. That is how good they are at what they do. And they are able to do it in such a way that you don't even realize until it's too late. They are like a cult leader. What they essentially do is infiltrate your mind and end up controlling your mind. And that is a very, very scary thing to come to realize that they do. And ultimately, if they have done that to you, when you wake up out of the fog and you come out of it and you are finding yourself again, you realize that they actually robbed you from you. They stole you from you. It's mind control. They will use these tactics like triangulation, and they will like, triangulation is basically when they use other people in your relationship to kind of like pin you against them without you even realize like what they're doing exactly. So they'll make you subconsciously seek their validation again and make you feel like you have to prove yourself like you're worthy. And this will happen a lot of the times when they'll compare you to like exes. They'll even like talk down on their exes to try and make you feel like you got to show up better. And another thing they do with their manipulation is they will creatively make you dependent on them. And you'll notice that suddenly everything you do is criticized. Everything that you say is wrong. Everything that you do is wrong. All the decisions you make are bad decisions, ultimately making you not trust yourself and your decision-making abilities. Somewhere along the line, you'll notice that you once upon a time were the greatest cook, and now all of a sudden, every meal is criticized. At first, you are the most amazing person I've ever met, and you are just like me, just different gender. And then all of a sudden, you're boring, you're this, you're crazy, you're that. It flips. And the crazy thing is, nothing, like, you haven't changed. You're not doing anything different. You have been acting the same way. And all of a sudden, the things that were praised about you end up being the things that they put you down for. Those are some of the really key traits of a narcissist. Now I'm going to tell you the common behaviors of a narcissist, like what they actually do. So this will hopefully give you a better understanding of what they're actually like. So number 1, love bombing. My God, I had no idea what love bombing was. And now I can spot it even with strangers online. I'm like, that is love bombing. That is love bombing. That is love bombing. Now, this one's a really hard one for people to notice as a red flag, because a lot of the time, like, they come across as like someone's treating you good, someone's giving you excessive gifts or excessive compliments and admiration, and they just are like really, really good. And a lot of, especially if you've never had this type of treatment before, or like you come from a traumatic past as well, you've never had a good relationship, and someone comes along acting like they're really, really good and nice, this can feel like euphoric, and it feels like a fantasy, and you feel like, wow, this is so amazing. Where have you been my whole life? This is why you need to be careful, because if it sounds too good and looks too good to be true, it is. I'm telling you, it is. All of the things that they do in the love bombing stage is ultimately to lock you in as supply. They're giving you things that you have never had before, and after their excessive research on your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses, which they have a knack for exploiting, they will know exactly the tactics to use on you that will make you hooked on them. You may seemingly, when you first meet, spend 8 hours on the phone with them and have nothing to run out of talking about. And you have common interests, and you've had experiences that are very similar, and you feel really connected. You feel like you've known this person forever. You feel like you're soulmates almost. And a lot of the time they will even use that as well. But the thing is, again, they are mirroring you to make you feel like they are your person. If you like red wine, they like red wine. If you like country music, they like country music. If you like seafood, they like seafood. Again, remember, it's a personality disorder. They don't have a personality. They're mirroring you. Second one is gaslighting. And gaslighting is insane to me. Gaslighting is the way that they make you believe that you're crazy, that what you are saying, experiencing, and going through isn't real. You're being dramatic. So that's not how it happened. They will literally say things like, that did not happen. I did not say that. That is not true. When you know plain as day that is actually what they said. You may even have proof of the things that they've done, and they will still gaslight you. They will twist and distort your reality, basically just to get out of taking accountability for their actions. They will never take accountability for their actions, and if they do, it's not genuine. They oftentimes as well, from the gaslighting, this is where it kind of breeds reactive abuse. And if you don't know what reactive abuse is, that's literally just when the victim is having a reaction to the abuse that they're going through by maybe physically defending themselves, being loud, and just genuinely having a very heightened and emotional reaction. And when that happens, the narcissist is like, bingo, and they're very good at switching up, becoming calm and composed and really chill, therefore making you look like you're the abusive one, when you know that that's not the truth. And then you go even crazier, feeling like you have to defend yourself. I'm not the crazy one. And a lot of the times, victims, like in domestic violence, reactive abuse can sometimes end up having the victim have the consequences. Like if the abuser then calls the police and they come and they're the ones that have like a DVO on them, it's actually the reactive abuse from the actual abuser. This is why it's so dangerous and twisted, and why you need to educate yourself. Because when you can also remain in control of your emotions, that's really when you're going to have the upper hand. For me personally, I really thought I was super switched on about the amount of gaslighting that I was at the hands of, until I actually decided to start journaling every single day. And I was writing down everything. I was documenting my life in great detail, like every conversation, argument, statement, everything that was said. And ultimately, when time had passed on and I would reread back my entries, I would notice that I had been gaslit, because I'd be like, And ultimately, I trusted myself, what I had written in real time, more than what I had been made to believe. And that is how I clued on to exactly how much gaslighting I was experiencing. The third one is blame shifting. They will blame everybody else for their actions except for themselves. But this is also, again, a little bit tricky, because if you're like around other people, or like it's kind of the early stages and you do want to have them accountable, like you do try and keep them accountable, they will appear like they are accountable, but it's not genuine. And when you pay close enough attention and more time goes on, you'll start to recognize the patterns, and you'll realize they're actually blame shifting still. Number 4 is the discarding. They will drop you at the hat when you no longer serve their needs. When they no longer see value in you, they will discard you, whether they ghost you completely, whether they break up with you out of the blue. And sometimes it's even a fake discard where they will pretend they're going to break up with you just to see how much you're going to fight for them and your relationship. How much are you going to sacrifice for them? Are you going to leave your job? Are you going to leave your studies? Are you going to betray your family? Are you going to move in with me quicker than what you want to? It's all of these things. Like, they will ultimately kind of force you to feel like you have to do these things. Otherwise the relationship's over. Otherwise we're done. Otherwise you're never getting this from me again. The list goes on. They will discard you. Now, this is crazy. Like, this is another thing when you hear me say, like, will you leave your job? Will you leave your studies? This is really easy for people who have never experienced to be like, oh, I would never do that. I would never give up my independence. But you need to have an open mind because, again, they are master manipulators. They know exactly the things to pull. They know what you're afraid of. And you need to work out what type of like codependency, like attachment style you have as well, because chances are they know exactly what your style is before you even know. And they use that to their advantage to manipulate you to do those things, to give up your independence. It happens. It happened to me. It happens to a lot of successful and driven and passionate people. Okay, so now a little bit of the red flags in the relationship, in the early stages of your relationship to look out for. Ultimately, they can be summarized by the behaviors that I did just mention. But another one that they do, which I really want to speak on, is how they infiltrate into your support system very early in the relationship. And it's very scary. So I'm going to tell you what they do. Okay, so what they do is in the beginning of your relationship, they will very quickly want to know everything about your friends, your family, your support, whoever is in your support system. They'll want to meet them. They'll be super engaged with them. They'll be active listeners, great at remembering details about your loved ones because that's ultimately going to make them like them. And what this does over time is it gets the approval of your friends and family and your support system. So that way, when the abuse actually starts and you go to your support system looking for opinions and advice to let them know, like, hey, this feels a little bit off. First of all, always trust your intuition. It's never wrong. Secondly, when you go to your family and seek this advice, they will automatically become the devil's advocate for your abuser. They will say things like, oh, I'm sure he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. I'm sure, they're a great guy. They've done this and they've done that, blah, 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 blah. And they unknowingly, and they don't do this on purpose because they're manipulated as well, end up accidentally pushing you into the hands of your abuser again. And then when you go back and the narcissist in your life finds out that you have gone to your family and said these things, they will then very quickly make you feel like you betrayed them, like you're disrespecting your relationship, like why would you say that about you? So then further down the line, it actually prevents you from seeking support and getting that guidance, because chances are, if you're with a narcissist, you're really empathetic, you're really caring, kind, loving, and you don't want to make your partner feel like you're disrespecting them, so you don't go to your family and do that again. They're really doing this because they're getting away with the abuse of how they're treating you. Because when you don't have a third person perspective to be like, hey, what they're doing and what they're saying to you, that's not good. They don't want that. So they don't want you talking to your friends and family, and they will disguise it in the way of a mature relationship, a good relationship, a healthy relationship doesn't talk about these problems. Yes, there is a fine line about what you're sharing with others, but ultimately this is how we stay safe: by talking, by sharing, by learning. Okay? So just be careful and take notice of how invested they seem to be in your support system, because not everyone has good intentions. Let's just say that. Learn to notice the patterns as well. Like if there's a common theme in their behavior, or you're finding yourself having to tell them the same thing over and over again, and like, please don't do this to me, please don't speak to me this way, please don't do this, and they continue to do it, it's a pattern. They don't respect you. They're not going to change. Moving on to how to actually heal from a narcissist. Now you've learned what narcissists actually are, what they do, the ways that they're sneaky on how to manipulate you. I'm going to tell you how to actually heal from them. The first step to healing is accepting and acknowledging what you have been through. Now, this can be a really hard pill to swallow, because it can be really hard to accept like what your reality is and what you have been experiencing. And a lot of the times how you have been treated was really awful. And it can be really hard to just go, look, that did happen to me, and I need to acknowledge it and accept it. Because if you keep like brewing in it and being in denial, that just doesn't open up that space for you to move forward. So by accepting and acknowledging what has happened and how they are, and accepting how they are, that they will never change, and that this person you thought they were doesn't exist, unfortunately, when you can accept it, you can heal quicker. The next is self-emotional validation. When you are feeling the things you're feeling, let yourself feel them. If you feel sad, be sad. If you feel angry, be angry. Go to a smash room, do something. Like, you are totally valid in every single feeling that you're going to go through. And it's like a roller coaster. 1 minute you're fine, happy, you feel free, you're great. The next you'll be down in the pits and you'll be like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is my reality. My whole world has been turned upside down. When you feel your emotions, it's really important to give yourself that emotional validation and let yourself feel it. So that way it can pass through you like a visitor and you move on to the next. If you ignore it, it does not go away, it makes it worse. The next is seeking support. You need to really build that support system around you, whether it be a friend, a family member, even a co-worker, a therapist, anyone that you can reach out to that you feel like you can trust. Do it. Start with one person. I started with one of my friends who I had noticed like online, she had left a relationship and she was kind of like being a bit more of herself. And she was the first person that I reached out to let her know my situation. And even just doing that is like a massive step, because it is terrifying, because there's also a part of you that doesn't feel like you are strong enough to leave and then also stay away. So if you can find just one person that you can trust to open up and talk to, that's not going to shame you for staying a little bit longer or shame you for why didn't you tell me sooner. You need to really look at who's around you and find that person. Your support system is really, really important, and they're really going to help you keep your head screwed on in regards of like reality. They're going to remind you of the things of why you left and why you deserve better. A support system is key. If you can afford it, definitely find a professional, specifically someone who actually has experience with NPD, like the narcissistic personality disorder, because it's not just like healing from just a typical bad relationship. Like narcissistic personality disorder abuse, it runs really, really deep. There's a lot of things that need to be unpacked. So if you can find a professional that specializes in it, that's really going to be helpful as well, even for that validation. The next is self-care. Now, this can show up in any way. I know this part was really hard for me as well, because I began to notice that when you're in a relationship with a person like a narcissist, you lose your autonomy. If you don't know what autonomy means, I will pop a little description here, but it's basically like your freedom, your independence, and like your decision making. And this can show up in ways of like, if you're doing something, you feel really, really rushed. And that's ultimately because a narcissist wants to control your time. You have to be available for them whenever they need. So doing things for self-care ultimately means taking the time for yourself. That can be really challenging because you feel guilty, you feel like you should be doing something more productive, but don't skip it. Self-care is really important. Do things that your inner child loves, like do things that your younger you used to enjoy. Do things like, if whatever it is, do it. Whatever creative urge you have, do it. Coloring in, going for a walk, having a bath, like these are all typical like self-care things. Even journaling, and even when you're journaling, write as if no one's going to see it. Even if it doesn't make sense, just write your stream of thoughts. That is so therapeutic, and specifically with a pen and paper, like not texting or typing, because when you write with your hand, it actually slows your brain down and helps you process your emotions better. So journaling, I'm a massive advocate for self-care in like journaling wise. I am a writer, if you don't know. So I will always stand by writing. That's very therapeutic. Okay, now that you've learned about what a narcissist is, how they are in relationships, how to heal from them, I'm going to tell you how to protect yourself moving forward. The first one is setting boundaries. Now, this can be really hard if you've never had to set boundaries before. You don't even know what your boundaries are. Just look back on the things that made you feel uncomfortable. That's where a boundary needs to come down. You need to put your foot in the sand. You need to draw that line in the sand, and you need to make sure no one crosses it. Whatever your boundaries are, whether it be like if you want to have dedicated time for yourself and if they're like blowing up your phone and needing your attention, no, this time is for me. Set the boundaries with the people in your life, even things like what you decide to engage in a conversation with, what type of topics you talk about, how often they have your attention, how often they can touch you, like things like that. Whatever your boundaries are, you need to make them clear and stand by them. And I'll tell you this as well to look out for. Anyone worthy having in your life and actually loves, cares, and respects you will not actually want to cross your boundaries. They will respect them. Yeah, I know. Bombshell. The next is you really need to build your self-worth. Now, this can be another really challenging thing because chances are when you have been with a narcissist or like just have a narcissist in your life, they have really, really done their job at knocking it to the ground. They have completely shattered your self-esteem. They make you believe that you are not worthy, that you are incapable of this and that and this and that. So you need to focus on ways that can rebuild that self-esteem, whether it be things like finding your sense of style again, playing with your makeup to make you feel a certain way. When you can do things that make you internally shift and you start to notice like how you can go out in the world and people are responding to you, that also helps with your self-worth. And even realizing like what things have been said and done to me in the past that really just made me feel yuck, and then think about the opposite of it. Like, okay, well, how would I need to behave and treat myself and talk to myself that won't let me accept that anymore? So when you start to also really pay attention to the thoughts that you have about yourself, the way that you speak about yourself, that plays a massive role. I became to learn that like my inner critic, my negative self-talk didn't even originate from me. And again, this is how I worked that out through the stuff I was journaling. The negative self-talk that I had was actually coming from my abusers. And now I don't say one bad thing about myself. I don't think a bad thing about myself. I talk highly of myself, and I believe everyone should talk highly about themselves to feel like you are a good person. What happened to you was awful. You didn't deserve it. And you're not these horrible things that they say about you. And this can be really hard because when you're getting out of an abusive relationship, you feel like embarrassed. You can feel like a lot of shame because you feel like, oh, I stayed for so long and people don't understand and all this sort of stuff as well. And you just really need to stop that while you're ahead and just forgive yourself, because ultimately the only thing you did was trust somebody and love somebody, and they betrayed that. You didn't do anything wrong. You gave a lot of second chances, third chances, fourth chances for someone to treat you right, and they didn't. That's got nothing to do with you. That's got everything to do with them. So don't let yourself feel like you did the wrong thing for even being an over-forgiving person. And just remember that narcissists are predators, and they prey on people that have that trait for that reason, so that you stay around. So be kind to yourself and build that self-worth back up, because you are worthy of being treated right. You are worthy of love, even with all the trauma you've been through, with all the baggage you might have, whatever it is that you feel that is not worthy of being loved and accepted. Just know that you are, and it starts within you. Ultimately, healing from anything that you go through in life, whether it be a narcissistic relationship, comes from healing the relationship with yourself. When you heal the relationship with yourself, you have a way better experience in life in general. The next is connecting with others. Talking about your experience as much as you're comfortable to definitely helps you heal. When you start to experience other people that have gone through the same thing, and you can kind of feel like, oh my God, that is so similar to what I've been through, or oh my God, that's really close to like how I was treated or what they said to me, and our stories are really alike. That is really, really validating, and ultimately connects you to other people and helps you heal, because you go, okay, well, it's not just me as well. Unfortunately, like obviously people shouldn't be having to bond over trauma, but it's a real thing. And hey, let's use it to our advantage, and let's create a community of like-minded people who understand each other and can be that validation and support with one another. Because if you're having a bad day about it and you're down in the dumps and you're upset, and somebody else who's been through the same thing may not be in that state of mind that day, they can be really good at helping you remember your self-worth and why you are so amazing, and that you can overcome what you have been through. So ultimately, healing is a journey and is a testament to your resilience and your strength. You are not alone, and you will never be alone. And you have the entire power within you to create a brighter and better future. And you are not what happened to you. If you found this video or this audio helpful, please let me know. Give it a thumbs up. pop in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe because this is just the first of many videos that I'll be doing on how to actually heal. I would love to hear from you, whether it be in private or in the comments or publicly, whatever it is. I would love to hear from you. If you're comfortable with it, you can share your experience, you can share what you have learned as well. And ultimately, I just want to create a safe and welcome space and a validating space for people, for other survivors, because we need each other. Thank you so much for watching, and always remember that knowledge is power and that you have the strength to overcome anything that you go through. If I can do it, so can you. Don't forget to check out my other socials, to follow me on there, see what I post because I'm very active. And again, stay tuned for more videos on how to actually heal with Chenise Sinclaire. Stay educated, stay safe. Most ardently, Chenise Sinclaire. Thank you.